Hey there, everybody. So we are in Acts chapter 17, verse 16, as we continue to plug our way along through the book of Acts. And if you want to keep going with us every day and make sure you show up here and on time, right up there you can click the three buttons if you're on Facebook watching live and get notifications from Joe. So, verse 16, now while Paul awaited for them at Athens, his spirit was provoked within him when he saw that the city was given over to idols. Therefore he reasoned in the synagogue with the Jews and the Gentile worshippers, and in the marketplace daily with those who happened to be there. Then certain Epicurean and Stoic philosophers encountered him, and some said, "What does this babbler want to say?" Others said, "He seems to be a proclaimer of foreign gods, because he preached to them Jesus and the resurrection." And they took him and brought him to the Areopagus, saying, "May we know what this new doctrine is of which you speak? For you are bringing some strange things to our ears. Therefore we want to know what these things mean." For all the Athenians and the foreigners who were there spent their time in nothing else but either to tell or hear of something new. All right. So, history. There's always some fun history. And good morning to everybody who's up and watching. So, we've got him showing up at Athens. Now, he heads on. He's by himself. He's rolling solo. And maybe we won't get to his sermon today, but it's interesting because it's a debated issue. You know, there's a lot of debated issues that you might not know are debated issues unless someone told you that. Lots of pastors and scholars and theologians debate these things. And one debated issue is whether or not Paul's preaching at Athens was a success or a failure. It's a very eloquent sermon, and maybe we'll get more into the sermon later, but I will say that you'll notice that he's going solo. He normally has a wingman. Good morning, Evelyn. And so he normally has someone with him, and he doesn't right now. Does that change his behavior, the way he preaches? Accountability is a big deal in the Christian life, like having people to keep us accountable. That's why the church is so important. That's why it's so important to have fellowship. That's why watching sermons online won't cut it in the long run, because there's no accountability. You see, you can watch online and learn, and you can learn online just as easy as you can in person, but there's no accountability. There's no fellowship. There's no one there to kind of make you put your money where your mouth is. And so he's by himself, and perhaps he preaches or teaches or behaves and acts and moves in a different way than he would have if he had Silas and Timothy by his side. But what happens is he gets provoked. He's there and he sees the idols. And we were talking at our discipleship class when we talked about Buddhism and Hinduism. We were talking about specifically Hinduism, how when I went to Thailand a while back, just the weird, unnerving feeling that everywhere you go, there was an idol. Like there were little statues, and people would worship those statues on literally like every street corner. That's very unheard of for us here in America, right? For us who are, 21st century Americans, we don't see that. But this is what Paul was experiencing in Athens. And that would have been very unnerving for a Jew. Paul was Jewish, and he wasn't used to seeing, I'm assuming, all these idols. I don't know how much Paul traveled before. We know he's from Tarsus, and he went up and down in the area of Judea and Syria, and then he made it into Turkey. But now he's really getting to the core of where this idol worship and worshiping all these pantheon of gods and the Greeks, he gets to Athens. And so here's a Jewish boy who never was allowed to, they didn't even draw pictures of things of that in that time. The Jews in the first century and before, they'd make mosaics on floors. And you can date the mosaics because in that time, they wouldn't even draw animals or pictures or of people because it could be considered idolatry to make a graven image of a fish, because then you might end up worshiping it. So again, going from no idols at all to all of a sudden statues everywhere. I'm worked up, and so he's got to go. He's got to preach. And so he runs into these different scholars, Epicurean and Stoic scholars. The Epicureans, Epicurus, they essentially worship pleasure. That that God would want us to feel good, and so pursuing pleasure was really the way that worship was done. Pursuing whatever made us feel good must be the closest we can get to God. And the Stoics and Zeno, they worshipped virtue and just what is a virtuous thing, and they would actually discipline themselves. And so these are the people who sit on a pole for over a year or years, disciplining themselves and being, how disciplined can I be? And they had these different philosophies. And so they took them up to the Areopagus, which is Mars Hill. So you've maybe heard of like Mars Hill Church. This is Mars Hill where this is taking place. And he gets them up there, and they're interested in what he has to say because they haven't heard it before. And he's going to play to that in verse 23 with the unknown God, agnostos theos. But until that point, we'll say that maybe for tomorrow. You'll see that they're super excited. And in the end of verse 21 is maybe a big point for us today in the 21st century to take away. The Athenians and the foreigners who were there spent their time in nothing else but either to tell or to hear of some new thing. They were always excited to hear something new, something different, something they'd never heard before. And dare to say, the church and many Christians are often intrigued with the same thing today. Something new, something different, something out there, something exciting. I think we see this manifest itself in different ways. Not only new things, new teachings, new doctrine. Oh, wow. Well, did you hear? I mean, like there's this new understanding about the scripture because of some different way of looking at it. And then on the flip side, again, what's exciting? People want to see where the hype is, where the excitement is. This ministry must be moving because crazy things are happening. And there's an attraction to new, different, exciting. And you're going to find out, though, that at the end of his sermon, which is a good sermon by modern standards, if you were writing a sermon, you could use this sermon in Athens as a model of what you should have in a sermon. But what I think is in many ways, Paul is going to appeal to their minds. But because their hearts aren't really stirred, because they're not really interested in the gospel, they're just interested in something new, you're going to find that it doesn't really bear much fruit. Something new. Again, I'm very leery about new things. There's the old saying, if it's new, it ain't true. And if it's true, it ain't new. New waves of understanding and doctrines and new applications and things come through the church all the time. And maybe we're not familiar or recognize that they're new. But again, it frightens me a bit because I'm not expecting any amazing brand new revelations that are going to radically change the way we understand the Bible or understand all these other things. Some new filter. But what I've noticed is that many people, there are things that are new to you. This is a new thing to you, and it's exciting because new is exciting. But again, it's new to you, but you'll find out that it's been taught that way for generations. And so, watch out for the excitement of new things. I'm sure I teach people things that are new to them every Sunday. But it's not new like I made it up it's new, or found out some deep secret new, or well, now we can interpret the Bible in a different way because we have this new understanding of the way it was when it was written. Those are all red flags. We don't want something new. We just want something that's true. And I think that just needs to be the big emphasis. Not new, but true. All the people at Athens were itching for something new. When again, in reality, we just want something true. Let's not get hyped up over hype. I find the emotional roller coaster of hype in theology often gets us really excited and maybe even motivated. But often the hype doesn't pan out. And then we find ourselves sinking because we had put our faith into the hype, into the new thing, into the exciting thing. But when you put your faith in something that's true, just the simplicity of the Bible and the gospel, it's never going to fail. So, we don't want new, we want true. And I hope to stick true to that every morning, 7:30, right here, Monday through Saturday. I'll see you guys tomorrow.